Many people believe that the greatest battles are fought on the outside against the world, against other people, against the obstacles life places in front of us. But the truth is, the most difficult battle is the one that takes place within our own minds. When you sit in silence, when you are alone and the world quiets down, you start to hear a voice, not the voice of others but your own, and this voice can either become your closest companion or your harshest enemy. Negative thoughts, they do not scream, they whisper stories of doubt, of fear, of failure. They question your worth, your purpose, and your strength. And unless you become aware, those whispers can become chains that slowly wrap around your mind, paralyzing your ability to act, to move forward, to live freely. But here is something important to understand: a thought is just a thought. It only has the power you give to it. In the Shaolin tradition, discipline of the body must be accompanied by discipline of the mind. A mind left untrained will wander, and often it will wander into dark places. To deal with negative thoughts, we must not fight them with force. We must face them with presence, with understanding, and with inner stillness. So today, let us begin this journey inward. Let us take a closer look at how to deal with the negativity that arises from within, not by escaping it, not by suppressing it, but by transforming it. This transformation does not begin in the world outside. It begins in you. The first and most essential step in dealing with negative thoughts is recognizing that you are not your thoughts. This understanding is fundamental, yet often overlooked. Most people go through life believing that every thought that enters their mind must be true, that every fear, every doubt, every criticism their mind offers must somehow reflect reality. But this is not the case. The mind produces thoughts in the same way the body produces breath. They come and go, arise and fade. Some are helpful, others are not. But their presence alone does not mean they carry truth. The problem arises when you begin to identify with these thoughts, when you take ownership of them as if they are part of who you are. When a negative thought says, "I am not good enough," the danger is not in the thought itself, but in the moment you believe it. Thoughts can be deceptive. They are shaped by past experiences, emotional states, and external influences. If you had a difficult childhood, if you have faced failure, betrayal, or trauma, your mind might carry the residue of those experiences in the form of negative thinking patterns. These patterns become habits. Over time, they become so familiar that you no longer notice them. They play like background music in your mind, constantly, subtly, and destructively. That is why awareness is everything. You must become the observer of your mind. You must learn to step back and watch your thoughts without immediately reacting to them or accepting them as truth. This process is similar to training in the martial arts. In the beginning, you are undisciplined, your movements are wild, your breath is irregular, your mind is scattered. But with time, repetition, and focus, you begin to cultivate control. The same applies to the mind. When a negative thought arises, observe it, do not fight it. Fighting creates resistance, and resistance often strengthens the very thing you want to be free from. Instead, notice the thought, give it space. Ask yourself, is this thought helpful? Is it rooted in truth, or is it a product of fear, habit, or past conditioning? Once you begin to question your thoughts, you create distance between the thought and your identity. Meditation and mindfulness are powerful tools for this process. Sitting in silence, observing your breath, and watching your thoughts as they come and go is not a practice in escaping life. It is a practice in learning how to live with clarity. When you are mindful, you no longer get carried away by every negative idea that enters your mind. You see them for what they are, just thoughts. Like clouds in the sky, they pass. You do not need to chase them, hold on to them, or believe them. You simply watch them, and in that watching, they lose their grip over you. Another aspect to understand is the language your mind uses. The words you use internally matter. Negative thoughts often come in the form of absolutes. I always fail. I can't do anything right. Nobody cares. These are not truths. they are distortions, and yet, when repeated often enough, they become beliefs. To break these patterns, you must introduce a new language into your mind, not with blind positivity, but with grounded reality. Replace absolutes with possibilities. Instead of "I always fail," try "I have failed in the past, but I can learn and grow." This shift may seem small, but it is profound. The way you speak to yourself becomes the foundation of your inner environment. Just as a garden grows depending on the quality of the soil, your mental state depends on the quality of your inner dialogue. Another powerful practice is journaling. Putting your thoughts on paper allows you to externalize them. Often, when thoughts remain inside the mind, they feel overwhelming. They grow in size, feeding on your attention and emotion. But when you write them down, you begin to see them more clearly. What once felt like an enormous storm becomes a small cloud when viewed from a distance. Writing gives perspective. It turns confusion into clarity. It shows you the patterns you've been repeating, and it allows you to begin the process of breaking them. Also, recognize the connection between the body and mind. A restless, unhealthy body often feeds a restless, negative mind. Physical activity, proper breathing, a balanced diet, these are not separate from your mental well-being. When you move the body with discipline, the mind begins to follow. In the Shaolin tradition, we do not train only for strength or agility. We train for alignment. The breath, the body, the mind all must move together, all must support one another. Negative thoughts often arise more frequently in a body that is stagnant, in a life that lacks rhythm, in a mind that lacks stillness. So movement, stillness, and awareness must all become part of your daily life. To deal with negative thoughts, it is necessary to understand the power of attention. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. Most people live their lives without ever realizing that they are feeding their negative thoughts simply by focusing on them, nurturing them, and allowing them to take center stage in their inner world. A single negative thought, if left unchecked, can spiral into a chain reaction, one that affects your emotions, your actions, and ultimately your reality. The mind, like a magnifying glass, amplifies whatever you place before it. If you place fear, anger, or doubt in its focus, those emotions will expand. If you place peace, gratitude, or clarity before it, those too will expand. The choice of focus is always yours, whether you are conscious of it or not. The reason so many people struggle with persistent negative thinking is because they are unaware of the internal dialogue that is constantly unfolding within them. This dialogue is subtle, automatic, and deeply conditioned. From a young age, we begin to absorb the voices of others, our parents, teachers, friends, society. If these voices carried messages of criticism, unworthiness, or limitation, they become ingrained in the subconscious. As we grow older, these messages replay without us even realizing. The voice inside becomes our own, even though it was never truly ours to begin with. It is only when we start to observe this inner voice that we can begin to change its narrative. This process of observation is not passive. It requires discipline. It requires a willingness to be uncomfortable, to sit with yourself, to notice the patterns you've been running on autopilot. It requires honesty, the kind of honesty that sees clearly but does not judge. When a negative thought arises, instead of reacting, pause. Ask yourself, what is this thought trying to tell me? Where is it coming from? Is it based on fear or truth? This self-inquiry creates space between the thought and your response. And in that space lies your power, the power to choose a different focus. Redirecting attention is a skill. Like any skill, it must be trained. One method is the conscious practice of gratitude. Gratitude is not simply listing things you are thankful for. It is the deliberate shifting of your focus from what is lacking or broken to what is present and whole. Even in difficult times, there is always something to be grateful for: the breath you are taking, the lessons you are learning, the strength you are cultivating. The mind will resist this practice at first. It will try to return to its familiar patterns of worry or complaint. But if you persist, if you train your attention to return again and again to gratitude, the negative thoughts begin to lose their dominance. Another method is intentional visualization. The subconscious mind does not distinguish between reality and imagination. When you consistently visualize a state of peace, of confidence, of growth, the mind begins to accept this as your default state. You begin to feel differently, act differently, carry yourself differently. Visualization is not wishful thinking. It is focused, intentional training of the mind to align with a new direction. It allows you to create an internal environment that supports your growth instead of sabotaging it. The environment you place yourself in also plays a crucial role. Surround yourself with people who elevate your thinking. Spend time in spaces that calm your nervous system. Consume content that uplifts your spirit. What you expose your mind to repeatedly becomes your internal landscape. If you constantly feed your mind with negativity, whether through media, conversations, or self-talk, then it is only natural that negative thoughts will dominate. But if you create a space where positivity, wisdom, and presence are valued, your thoughts will begin to reflect that environment. Redirecting attention does not mean ignoring negativity or pretending everything is fine. It means choosing to not dwell in what disempowers you. It means recognizing that while you cannot control every thought that enters your mind, you can control how long you give it your focus. Attention is a sacred energy. If you learn to guard it, to guide it, and to train it, you take the first real step toward mastering your inner world. To deal with negative thoughts effectively, one must learn to develop inner stillness. In a world that is constantly moving, constantly speaking, constantly demanding attention, the ability to remain still, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, is both rare and powerful. Most people believe that peace is something they must seek outside of themselves. They look for it in relationships, in achievements, in distractions. But true peace is not found in the external world. It is uncovered within, beneath the noise of the mind, beneath the waves of thought that rise and fall endlessly each day. Negative thoughts often arise from a place of restlessness. When the mind is constantly agitated, always reacting, always analyzing, it becomes the perfect ground for negativity to take root and grow. Inner stillness is not about silence alone. It is about presence. It is the quality of being fully here in this moment without being pulled away by regrets of the past or anxieties about the future. When you cultivate inner stillness, you create space within yourself, a space where clarity can emerge, where awareness can deepen, where transformation becomes possible. Stillness does not mean the absence of thought. It means the absence of attachment to thought. It means that when a negative thought appears, you do not chase it or argue with it. You simply let it pass, like a leaf floating down a river. This capacity to let go, to not grasp every thought that enters your mind, is one of the highest forms of discipline. Practicing stillness is not always comfortable. The moment you sit with yourself without distractions, you may find that your thoughts become louder. All the suppressed emotions, unresolved conflicts, and hidden fears begin to surface. This is natural. The mind, when deprived of its usual distractions, begins to reveal its deeper layers. This is not a sign that something is going wrong. It is a sign that something is beginning to shift. The discomfort you feel is the weight of years of unexamined thoughts and emotions beginning to rise to the surface. If you can stay present with that discomfort without running from it or reacting to it, you begin the process of deep inner cleansing. Stillness can be cultivated through daily practices. One of the most powerful is conscious breathing. Your breath is always with you, and it is the bridge between the body and the mind. When you focus on your breath, slowly, deeply, intentionally, you signal to your nervous system that it is safe to relax. You bring your awareness out of the mind and into the body. This shift from thinking to feeling allows the mind to quiet down. Over time, the breath becomes an anchor, a point of return whenever your thoughts become overwhelming or chaotic. In moments of stress or negativity, simply returning to the breath can bring an immediate sense of calm and clarity. Another practice that nurtures inner stillness is solitude. Time alone, when used consciously, becomes a powerful tool for self-awareness and mental clarity. It is in solitude that you begin to hear the subtler voices within the voice of your intuition, the voice of wisdom, the voice that speaks not from fear, but from truth. Many people fear solitude because they have never been taught how to be with themselves. But once you learn to sit in your own presence, without needing anything to change, you realize that you are not empty. You are full of insight, full of strength, full of life. Solitude, when embraced, becomes the teacher that reveals who you truly are beneath all the noise and conditioning. Nature is another doorway into stillness. When you walk among trees, when you sit beside water, when you observe the cycles of the earth, your mind begins to slow down. The natural world does not rush. It does not strive or struggle. It simply exists with quiet confidence and balance. By spending time in nature, you begin to mirror that state. Your thoughts begin to soften, your breath deepens, your awareness expands. In that state of connection, negative thoughts lose their grip, because you are no longer living solely in your head. You are grounded in the present, rooted in something deeper than thought. Developing inner stillness does not happen overnight. It requires patience, commitment, and humility. It is a daily practice, not a destination. There will be days when your mind is loud and your emotions are heavy, but those are the days when stillness is needed most. It is not about stopping your thoughts. It is about learning not to be ruled by them. With time, you begin to notice a change. Negative thoughts still arise, but they no longer shake you. You become like a mount, still, grounded, unmoved by the winds that pass around you. This stillness becomes your strength. It becomes the space from which you respond to life rather than react. It becomes the foundation upon which a peaceful and resilient mind is built. Dealing with negative thoughts lies in the understanding that action must follow awareness. It is not enough to simply observe, analyze, or recognize negative patterns within your mind. Transformation only takes place when you begin to act in alignment with a higher state of consciousness. Many people wait until they feel better before they take action, believing that motivation must come first. But this belief keeps them trapped in a cycle where negative thoughts suppress action, and inaction feeds more negativity. The truth is, sometimes it is action itself that creates the shift. When you move, when you engage, when you step forward despite the presence of negative thoughts, you weaken their power. You prove to yourself, through experience, that your thoughts do not define your limits. Taking action is not about achieving big things all at once. It is about taking small, deliberate steps toward a healthier mental state. It could be as simple as going for a walk when your mind feels heavy, or reaching out to someone when isolation feeds your inner critic. It could be choosing to read a few pages of a meaningful book instead of consuming content that fuels anxiety. These small actions, repeated over time, change your internal rhythm. They interrupt the momentum of negative thinking and begin to replace it with movement, energy, and possibility. Each time you choose an action that aligns with your well-being, even when it feels difficult, you reclaim power from the thoughts that try to control you. Another form of action is expressing what is within. Negative thoughts often grow stronger when they are locked inside, unspoken and suppressed. When you give voice to what you are feeling, whether through writing, speaking, or creating, you release pressure from the mind. Expression is not about finding perfect words or solutions. It is about giving shape to what is otherwise formless. A journal becomes a mirror, a canvas becomes a sanctuary, a conversation becomes a bridge. Through expression, the inner world becomes less mysterious and more manageable. It allows you to confront your thoughts not as enemies, but as visitors, each carrying a message you can choose to listen to or let pass. Action also includes the discipline of building structure in your life. A disorganized, chaotic lifestyle often reflects and reinforces a disorganized mind. When you establish routines, when you bring order to your environment, you create a sense of stability that supports mental clarity. Waking up at the same time, preparing nourishing meals, setting aside moments for reflection. These acts may seem ordinary, but they anchor you. They remind you that even when the mind feels scattered, you can still move with intention. Structure does not restrict freedom. It creates the space in which freedom can flourish. Commitment to growth is a form of action that shapes your identity over time. When you commit to practices that challenge and uplift you, whether it's daily meditation, physical training, learning something new, you shift the way you see yourself. No longer are you just someone trying to escape negativity. You become someone who is cultivating strength, discipline, and resilience. Growth requires effort, but it also builds momentum. With every small success, your belief in yourself strengthens. And as belief grows, negative thoughts lose their authority. They may still appear, but you no longer bow to them. You acknowledge their presence, but you act from a higher place. Community and connection also play a vital role in this process. Isolation amplifies negative thinking. When you are alone for too long, the mind becomes an echo chamber where fears and doubts grow louder with no other voices to challenge them. Seeking connection is not a sign of weakness. It is a conscious act of healing. Whether it's spending time with loved ones, joining a group with shared interests, or simply speaking honestly with someone you trust, human connection reminds you that you are not alone in your struggles. It allows you to see your experience from a broader perspective and receive support that renews your sense of strength. Even in moments when negative thoughts feel overwhelming, the decision to act, to take a single step forward, holds immense power. It breaks the illusion that you are helpless. It reminds you that while you may not control what thoughts arise, you can always choose how you respond. This choice, repeated again and again, becomes your practice. And over time, your practice becomes your way of life, a life not dictated by fear or doubt, but guided by awareness, discipline, and courage. In this way, action becomes not just a response to negativity, but a path to transformation. Dealing with negative thoughts is not about eliminating them entirely, but about transforming your relationship with them. You begin by recognizing that you are not your thoughts, that the mind can generate ideas and stories that do not define who you are. Then, by learning to direct your attention with intention, you reclaim your inner power and stop feeding patterns that no longer serve you. Through the cultivation of inner stillness, you create space within yourself for clarity and wisdom to arise, allowing negative thoughts to pass without being consumed by them. Finally, by taking consistent action, no matter how small, you begin to reshape your reality from the inside out. The journey is not about perfection, but about progress, not about control, but about awareness. True mastery of the mind is not in silencing every doubt, but in learning to walk forward with strength, grace, and presence, even when the noise remains. In this way, you train yourself not to be led by negativity, but to lead yourself with conscious, deliberate purpose.